Everyone, and welcome to our LinkedIn Live event on Tech Talks in Global Mobility, Harnessing Innovation for Success. I'm Dana Teodorescu, and I'm delighted to be your host for today's discussion. I'm thrilled to have a distinguished panel of experts who will shed light on the intersection of technology and global mobility, exploring how innovation drives success in this dynamic field. So I will ask my esteemed panelists to introduce themselves alphabetically, starting with Cassie.
Hi, Cassie Ramos. I am a lead global mobility partner at Biogen. I've been at Biogen for just under 4 years, 4 years in December, and I focus on managing our immigration program, making sure that our foreign nationals have the right to work where in the countries where they are, and then looking at our right to work programs also. I work with our vendors to ensure that our technology is good for both our global mobility team, but also our employees. So looking forward to the conversation today.
Thanks, Cassie. Great to have you here. Over to you, Elena.
Hi, my name is Elena Udkovskaa, and first of all, thank you very much for having me. Thank you for the invitation. I'm a business lawyer from my educational background, and I started my career back in times in taxes. And then after that, I transitioned to global mobility, first working in a law firm specialized on immigration, then changing to a company that is digitalizing immigration processes to Germany. After that, and actually after a decade in consultancy, I recently switched sides, let's put it that way, to an in-house position at Grammarly. Grammarly is a well-known company, I think, which improves communication. And I'm with Grammarly a little bit more than 4 months for now, and I'm in charge of all things global mobility in Europe for Grammarly. Thank you.
That's great. Thanks, Elena. Over to you, Karen.
Hi, I'm Karen Hale. I'm so happy to be here with you today. I lead the global mobility function for Unity Technologies, which is an amazing tech company involved in creating 2D and 3D immersive experiences for all creators and users out there in the world, which essentially is all of us. I've been here almost 2 years, based out of Austin, Texas in the US. And prior to that, my career in mobility dates back almost 20 years, starting with one of the big four tax firms, and then moving on to a number of roles in both at RMC, as well as with some other corporate positions before coming to Unity. So excited to look forward to the conversation.
Thanks a lot, Karen. Great to have you here. Over to you, Laura.
Hi, and thanks everyone who's joined us today. I'm Laura Michaud. I'm the CTO of xpath.global. I come from a technology background, having started my career almost 17 years ago as a software engineer. I've since held several roles, from technical lead, project manager, software architect, and product owner. I've eventually started my own consulting business where I've worked with clients across the globe, from startups to well-established businesses, to develop their products. I've had the chance to interact with companies from a multitude of industries, real estate, healthcare, corporate learning, and many, many others. And I'm very grateful for that, for all the things I've learned from all these varied experiences. In 2018, I've joined xpath.global and the global mobility industry with it. And I'm now leading all the product development and technology efforts within xpath.global.
Thanks, Laura. And thank you all. Thank you for being here. So today's session is brought to you by xpath.global, the technology company which developed the first collaborative global mobility ecosystem. We help companies simplify global mobility processes, save costs, and improve communication in managing international assignees, remote workers, and business travelers. Our platform promotes seamless collaboration and transparency among HR, global mobility, expats, and service providers. One of the standout features of the platform is the ability to bring together the existing suppliers and effortlessly onboard new suppliers through our carefully vetted marketplace for immigration, taxation, relocation, and moving services. To learn more about how xpath.global can benefit the company, Please stay tuned and scan the QR code that's going to pop up for the remaining of this presentation on the screen to find out more and book a demo. Please also stay tuned for the activities and events introduced by xpath Global LinkedIn page, as we have an exciting full season ahead with numerous events designed to enhance our mobility journey. Among the upcoming events, I'm pleased to mention that xpath Global will meet in Bucharest in collaboration with our esteemed partners from Austria, Belgium, Spain, Germany, France, and Romania. During this summit, we will delve into topics such as tax and compliance, and we're honored to have speaker representatives from the OECD and the European Labour Authority. Another great event that xpath Global is attending this year is Unleash World in Paris for the gathering of the world's leading technology providers, big brands, startups, influencers, media, and governments. So we truly appreciate being a part of the community of shaping the future of work and HR technology. For more information, please follow us on LinkedIn and reach out to myself or to my team if you're interested in joining any of these events. But thank you all for joining this session on technology. We will jump right into the conversation by addressing some pressing questions to our panelists. We also encourage active participation from the audience, as your questions and perspectives will enrich our discussion. I want to say hello to Bindu. Thank you for joining us. Please feel free to add in comments and your thoughts and feedback throughout the session. And let's make a start. So I'll start off with Karen. Karen, coming from a technology company, I'm curious, how do you define innovation in the context of technology creation, and how important is it for staying competitive?
Well, I think it's fair to say that currently all of our lives are closely intertwined with technology. There's really nothing that we do, or very little that we do these days, that doesn't have a technology component. Coming from a tech company that's really trying to push the envelope and create some amazing new innovative experiences, I feel an obligation to our employees and to our company as a whole to make sure that we are trying to also be cutting edge and to create, use technology in a way that's most effective for our team, for our employees, to enhance their experience. It's a big task some days to try to live up to the amazing creative work that's being done in-house and other spaces. But I'm excited about seeing where we can go. When it comes to innovation specifically, I think we all need to think of that word in the broadest possible context. It would be great if we all had the resources and budgets to be able to do massive transformative technology activities on a regular basis, but generally that's not possible. So I think we need to look at the options that are available to us. Even small changes can be very impactful. So using the technology tools that we have available for education, for employee outreach, and things of that sort are really important. So think big, but also think small.
That's a great tip. Thanks, Karen. And you talk about your employees and the culture. You touched on the culture. I'm curious as well to hear from Elena. Elena, how do you foster this culture of innovation within your organization, and what role does it play in the creation of new technologies?
I think, first of all, like, to foster innovation, it is crucial to create an open culture, a culture of inclusion, where people feel that they belong and where they are not afraid of making mistakes, because innovation is about making mistakes. So we can create workshops, we can create brainstorm sessions, but people need to feel safe whenever they are innovating, basically. And another point for me is a question of resources. If I tell my team members, now go and innovate, but on the other hand, they are just like scooping the water out of the boat, because on the operational side, because they have actually no time to think openly, to think about innovations, also to gain knowledge about innovation and technological progress. Actually, if they have such a high workload on the daily basis, they will not be able to innovate. The same with financial resources. New technologies are expensive, and the tools that are on the market, they are expensive. But how can people innovate without having this playground of just like checking in what's new on the market, what can I play with, what's actually just fun, and is not bringing income, bringing return like immediately tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. So to sum it up, an open culture on the one hand, but also the provision of resources are for me the two crucial points for a culture of innovation.
And if I could just piggyback on that, really
Yes,
quick.
sure, Cassie. Thank you.
I think when Elena was kind of talking about the workload and stuff, I think it's about taking it incrementally, right? It's about being smart about how the scope of what the innovation looks like, because if you try to boil the ocean, it's going to be really difficult to feel like you're making a difference because there's so much to be done. So if you think about, when you think about innovation, you can think about it in smaller chunks, right? Of, well, let's make this piece better. Maybe if we make this piece better, the trickle down effect is going to look different. I think that's going to help when you talk about people's workloads and making sure that they feel like they can remain innovative.
I totally agree. Thanks for adding that, Cassie. Thank you.
Yeah, and I was just going to add too, I loved what Elena said about innovation sometimes involves failure. I think we all have to understand that that's true and be willing to take that risk. Some of the things that we try may not work or may not work at 100% and may need to be tweaked. So it's scary. We don't want to do that. We don't want to implement something that doesn't work. But I think, we have to be, one of our corporate values is kind of go bold. And I think we have to live that philosophy that sometimes we just have to take that leap and try something new, and with all our due diligence in advance, but give it a shot and then adjust it from there if needed.
That's great. That's well said. Thanks for adding, Karen. And I want to hear from the audience as well. If you've got any other ideas for how to foster the culture of innovation and how you do things in your organization, please feel free to share. But thank you. Those were all great suggestions and great ideas. And it's great to hear how you're applying these things at your own companies. So thanks again for sharing this. Laura, I'm curious, in what ways do you involve the end users or your customers in the innovation process? And how do you ensure that the resulting technologies meet their needs effectively?
Well, we really value our customers' feedback. In fact, our entire platform was built upon customer feedback. Our founder and CEO has come from the global mobility industry. She has tremendous experience in this field, and she's been working with clients in the past for immigration, tax relocation, and adjacent services. And she came with a lot of feedback. She understood what the challenges were. So based on all that, all those struggles and problems that were identified, we were able to build a technology solution to resolve them. And we continue to put a big emphasis on customer feedback. We are lucky to have some of our users that are very interested in technology and very keen to sit down with us, look at maybe pre-release versions of other features that we're working on, and give us feedback on them, tell us what works, what doesn't for them, so we have a chance to adjust. And to be honest, events such as this, and even meetings, informal meetings with clients and even potential clients, are very, very useful, because when you hear people talking about the same thing over and over again, it might be something you haven't thought of or it hasn't occurred to you that might be a challenge. But when people keep bringing it up, you realize that, hold on, yes, there's an issue there, and you start coming up with ideas of how to resolve it. And that just makes the product better.
That's right. Thank you, Laura. So I'm curious as well to hear from the audience as well, if how open are they to providing feedback? Because it's a good thing that you are requesting feedback, but we notice that not everyone is comfortable in providing that feedback. So I guess, well, I highly encourage everyone to do that, whether it's constructive feedback, positive feedback. It's really important, and it's going to be accepted. I know some people might struggle accepting the constructive feedback, but it's definitely going to help to their development. So I'm a big advocate of this, and I hope the audience can also agree and are also big advocates of sharing and providing feedback.
Yeah, I completely agree, Jana. It's, I mean, I know it can be challenging to go in front of someone that built something and say, look, this isn't working for me, but it's really valuable for them, because in the end, what everyone's trying is to develop a good product, right? So if they don't get this, this feedback, it's how are you going to know how to move forward?
Yes, I agree.
And I would add that a big part of it, right, is making it easy for folks to give feedback. If you have an opportunity, right, if you survey folks, if you are giving individuals the space to do that, and you're asking for it, then that's when they feel most comfortable, right, giving it. Otherwise, I don't know if everybody feels as comfortable, right? As Laura mentioned, I don't know if everybody feels as comfortable just saying, well, I think this process could work better in this way and that way. If you solicit that feedback, you're going to get a higher rate of response, and then you can pivot as needed.
That's
Yes,
right.
yeah, I agree. We have to be proactive in asking for it. Just because some people, even like you use a tool and you get comfortable with it and say, okay, it works. They could be better. You know what's bothering you about it, but you're like, I'm generally happy.
Yeah.
So if we're not proactive to asking for those, we might miss a lot of important things that can improve product even more.
Yeah.
Yes, feedback is a gift, and we should receive it, and we should also give it in turns too. And this is valid to our peers, to our co-workers, and why not customers and suppliers. So I hope more and more people will feel comfortable in providing and accepting feedback. Cassie, I've got a question in regards to the emerging technologies. So I'm curious, what do you think are the specific technologies or trends that will greatly influence the future of global mobility?
I think when we think about technology, we're looking at accessibility quite a bit. And that's accessibility, I'd say, across the global mobility space, from the expat that's actually moving to HR folks, to managers, right, to business partners that are saying, well, what does this look like for us, right? What does the overall process look like for us? And so for us at Biogen, as a biopharmaceutical company that uses dashboards across the board, when we're looking at our research and development and how we're doing those things, right? The innovation, it comes from the data that we already have. And so we use dashboards quite a bit within our program to share with our HR colleagues, with managers, mostly with business partners, on how are we doing? What does the volume of our program look like? Who are we moving? Where are we moving them to? Right? Because you want to be able to provide the accessibility for folks to be able to make those strategic decisions about the organization, and where does global mobility fit into those strategic decisions. I think the other piece that we're going to see, and that we've already started seeing quite a bit, is all of these companies moving towards kind of self-service or expats. When I started with Biogen, even 4 years ago, that was really the big part of our technology move, was how can we make this all accessible to our expats so that they can then go in and request services, so that they can say, you know what, I'm getting a lump sum and I want to be able to use this, and that service, but I don't really need this service, right? So you're not making, you're both standardizing the process, but also making it applicable to each person and their needs. And so the technologies that we're coming up with need to roll with that and be able to give folks the ability to choose, but also choose within certain parameters. And so that self-service piece is going to become critical as we look at where global mobility is going.
Thank you. Yeah, those are great points. And it's also, I know, something that that the xpath Global team had in mind when they created the platform. So it was designed in such a way to be accessible, to be available anytime, anywhere, and on any device, and to allow people to be self-sufficient, to use it to their needs, to accommodate those companies that want flexibility and expats managing how they spend their lump sums, but also those companies who want to have more of a structure. So it's definitely important. And I think all technology companies should really focus on this, on the accessibility and providing the flexibility and the self-service. Because you're right, it seems like the trends, that's where we're going. That's what we're seeing more of. We want, rather than waiting for things to come and be done on our behalf, we have a satisfaction when we get to do things ourselves. So when you manage to complete a process by yourself, you don't have to ask for help. You have that internal satisfaction that you get. So that's very important. And thank you. Thanks.
And
thanks
it comes, if I can jump in, it comes with a benefits as well, because in the end, you don't want the global mobility or the HR team to be a bottleneck if they have to manage more and more remote workers or expats or assignees. In the end, that is going to become a bottleneck. And rather than just struggling to manage that in a centralized manner, it's much easier to distribute it and let people pick what's more valuable for them.
That's right.
I would also like to add one thing. Like for me, it's like I totally agree with what Cassie said, but for me, it's also about data. So whenever we are in HR, we deal with sensitive data, and we in global mobility, we deal with even more sensitive data. And then we are always on the scale. Like on the one hand, we don't want our employees to type their data in again and again and again. But on the other hand, we want the data to be transferred securely and also fast from A to B. And if you think like about a medium complicated relocation case, you have immigration providers, you have tax providers, you have relocation providers in there, and they don't necessarily trust each other. So we need a solution to enable them to transfer data from one to another, and also to have reliable data that is true. So this is a challenge we will face more and more in future. And whenever I or we as a company are choosing a service provider, this is something that we are having a close look on.
I'm smiling a little bit because this is generally what we built, you know. So we've seen the same problem in the industry where you have various providers, you have, you know, companies that has to work with supply chain and different, they cover different areas of global mobility, and they all need either part or the same information about the people involved. And it is very sensitive data, right? We're talking about contracts and compensation when it comes to tax and even immigration. We are talking about passports and travel documents. So it's a very, very secure information that has to be really well guarded, and it's really difficult to transfer that from one party to another. And we have a number of providers involved. We have the company, the global mobility team, and the HR team. We have the employee that is the source of most of that data as well. So we've seen people struggle with transferring all this in a secure manner in between all these parties. So this is part of the thing we're trying to achieve, which is setting up a platform where it's in one place and you have very ingrained control over what everyone can see or what each party can see. But it's easy to share that information, and you don't have to type it in over and over again. You don't have to re-upload the same document and send it to multiple people. And you have the traceability and accountability of being able to see who has accessed what, when, for what purpose, which I think is very important in this particular field.
Thanks, Laura. Thank you. And now, Karen, going over to you. I see you've got a supporter in the audience as well, who agrees with your comments and loves your commitment to being innovative. So that's great.
Well,
Great to see that.
This is what happens when you've been around in the business for as many years as I have. I hate to say that because it makes me feel old, but thankfully a lot of friends and colleagues, current and former, out there. So appreciate their support.
Yes, well, that's great. I'm glad they're joining us. And hello, Beth. Thanks for being here with us. We want to hear more from you. So, Karen, going back to you, I've got a question for you. I'm curious, how can tech-driven innovations in global mobility help organizations attract and retain top talent in an increasingly competitive global market?
I mean, I think obviously as we're looking at continuing to grow and attract new talent, we're looking at obviously a wide demographic. But as younger generations come into the workforce, they essentially have grown up on tech. I know my kids got issued an iPad in kindergarten, and in our school district's more or less 100% technology based. So it is, it is really the way, not just us as professionals, but even our younger upcoming workforce live and breathe. They don't, that is their lifestyle. It is integrated in everything that they do. So I think we have to meet them where they are. We have to have experiences where people can easily access the information that we need, what roles we have open, what is the company culture. And then from a global mobility side, then, how do we support them? How do we make this easy for them to access information? Can they get to it from their phone on the go? All of those kinds of things are really critical in both attracting and retaining talent. And if we're not thinking about those things and integrating them to our programs now, we certainly should be, because it will be the expectations of our employees.
Thank you. That's well said. It's important to equip them with the right tools to attract them and to meet their needs. That's great. Does anyone else have any other suggestions? Hear from the audience as well. If you have any suggestions or any thoughts on how can technology attract and retain talent, please share your thoughts. Don't be shy. Use the comments section. Sorry, Cassie, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, no, I just want to go back to what Laura was saying earlier, kind of about, the self-service, right, and all of that. And Karen hit the nail on the head also, right, with the fact that our new generation of employees that are coming up, and even honestly, the current generation, right, we're all in different time zones now. The ways of working look so different than they did even 4 years ago at this point. And so when you offer folks that technology and that ability to do it themselves, they want to be able to be in the driver's seat of their career. And you want them to feel like they're in the driver's seat of their career, and allowing them to move easily and to find services easily. I don't know about anybody else, but when it comes to doing something as simple as ordering pizza, if you have me calling the pizza place, I'm not ordering from there, right? Like, I want to be able to click through and pick which toppings I want, and know how much it's going to cost, and all of those things. Like, you want to, it's the predictability of it all. It's a consistency. It's knowing ahead of time what you are getting and what you're paying for.
Yes, that's right. And again, I know Laura's thinking about the same. This is what was used to develop the xpath technology, and I hope you'll get a chance to discover it for yourself and convince yourself of these attributes being implemented into our technology. But Laura, I want to go back to you and ask you about a mobile app. I know you've developed a mobile app, and I'm curious, how can technology, through things like a mobile app, contribute to enhancing the employee experience for expatriates and their dependents during the international assignments? And is this leading to improved overall employee satisfaction?
Of course. I mean, being an expatriate or moving countries is a very stressful experience. There's just so many things going on, from perhaps having to get the right visas and work permits, from moving your things, from bringing your family with you and finding proper schools for your kids. And if you have to have like mental checklists for all of those while traveling and, presumably still doing your job, it can be very overwhelming, which is why, people find this experience very, very stressful. So I think having it all on your phone, where you can just pull up and you're thinking, okay, where is it? Where's my visa at? How is it? What's the process like? And you can just find that information on your phone, or arriving in a country and saying, oh, wait, I can't figure out where I want to live in this city. Can I find someone else that can help me with it? And being able to access all of that from a mobile app, it's very, very practical, right? We're not living in a world where we're all sitting at the desk anymore, 8 hours a day. People travel, they work remotely, they go on assignments. We have a whole bunch of even digital nomads nowadays that like to travel and work from different countries. And you're on the go. People are on the go. So it's been years now where we know that mobile phones are more used from browsing, buying, using apps, way more than desktop. And even after the pandemic, we're kind of desktop started moving up again. It went back down now. So when we're talking about the employee experience, and we, by definition, they're mobile, it has to be a solution that goes with them wherever they go, and very easily accessible from everywhere. So this is what we had in mind when we developed our mobile app as well. I mean, we have all the tools necessary for expatriates to manage their move. They can keep track of all the processes they're going through, all the suppliers they're working with, the status of everything, very visual, very easy to understand, and even accessing new services on the go. It's like Cassie was saying, you don't need to call someone to order a service. You have it there. You want to know how much it costs. You want to know what's included. You want to know if you want to add any other toppings to it before you order it. So we try to cover all of these in our mobile app to make things easier for the employees as much as possible.
Thanks, Laura. I know in my group of friends, and me having been an expat myself, I know I was always looking for an app where you've got a problem, or you're looking for something like, is there an app that can help me with this? You're always on the lookout for one, and I'm glad you've created the Expat One app, which I also highly believe will change the way expats will perceive their international assignment and improve their satisfaction. But I want to talk more about also my expat experience and my passion for Expat Global. So I just want to share a bit more about what's made me so passionate about the service offering and the great work that Laura and her team have done. Is to see that they've created a collaborative, transparent system that brings together all of these stakeholders and gets them into working collaboratively in a fully GDPR compliant environment through technology. So I was completely mesmerized by this, and I wish this existed in my times as an expat. I was an expat for 11 years, and I had my fair share of challenges and opportunities throughout my journey. But I wished I had a collaborative system that allowed me to effectively collaborate with my expat peers, but also with the service providers and the HR and global mobility departments. So I want to let people know again that they can access this platform, and it's available anytime, anywhere, on any device, and it's very affordable. We start off with this. We understood that mobility is getting more and more expensive, and some companies even want to put assignments on hold, and we're determined to keep them going, because we know, and having been expats ourselves, we understand the importance of personal development, the importance of moving and trying a new culture and going on assignments. So we've created this platform and made it available for a very affordable price. So it ranges from 7.5 euros per expat per month to 9.5 euros per expat per month. So it's a SaaS-enabled marketplace. So you can manage all of your global mobility activities together. You can start off with the approval of an assignment, to managing your suppliers, to managing the delivery of those services all in one place. You've got the ability to bring in all of your suppliers or use the marketplace for finding additional suppliers. So I think it's really important to tackle each aspect and the pain points of each of the stakeholders. So we've tried to address the challenges and the needs of the HRs, the service providers, and the expats. And that's why for the expats, as Laura pointed out, the app was created to support it even more. So they've got additional features that allow them to manage their tax calendar, purchase mobility services, have the flexibility of that my colleagues here on this live mentioned. So if you want to find out more, I could talk about this for days. I'm genuinely passionate, and I wish this existed in my time as an expat. But I do encourage all of you to come and check it out, come and see it for yourself. We do have a special offer where we offer the trial, and you can test it for yourself, basically. So don't take my word for it. Come and convince yourself of this technology and the power it brings for all of the stakeholders. But thank you. And now I wanted to ask us, so it's good that we know about the technologies that are out there, and companies are encouraged, and there's a culture for innovation and adoption and embracing technology. But we also notice that sometimes the implementation process is not very straightforward. So, Cassie, how challenging is it for implementing technology in a large organization? And what's the typical timeframe for adoption? And if you want to touch also on the main obstacles faced by HRs and global mobility in adopting new technology.
Yeah. I mean, I'd say, I'll tackle the kind of the time frame for adopting first, because my favorite answer, as always, is it depends. Because it does, right? It depends on the motivation of the folks. It depends on the reason why you're doing it. Are you doing it to fix something? Then you're going to be a whole lot more motivated, right? And adoption can happen in, realistically, it's like 2 to 3 months. If you're really not that motivated, then, it might be like, oh, we'll put it on the back burner until Q4. And then Q4 comes up and, you don't really address it or anything. So it truly depends on the motivations behind it, how big the organization actually is. And what I have found mostly, what it all comes down to is who is in the room and who's managing the process itself, right? So you need to be able to have the right people in the room to have those discussions, to be able to adopt it fairly quickly and to get the IT requirements and the specs right on everything. I think one of the bigger challenges is when you're trying to adopt technology that's going to be helpful for both the folks who are executing the global mobility and those who are the clients and customers of it. Because everybody wants a different view, right? So the folks who are executing it, whether it's, your HR generalist or even a specialist who's doing it, they're going to want different things than the expat who just wants kind of quick access. But as I said earlier, it all comes down to that accessibility. So you're looking at what we at Biogen, and I think kind of in the larger tech and IT space, are now looking at kind of journey maps. So you're looking at the requirements that HR is looking for, right? So you map out, what does the process look like for HR as they're trying to find a report, as they're trying to find an individual? How many clicks do they go through, right? What specifically are you trying to target for them to access? And then you do a journey map from an employee's point of view or an expat's point of view to be able to say, what exactly are they looking for, right? Are they looking to be able to click and toggle back and forth between one screen and another? And what does that kind of ultimately look like? And so you kind of start with the bigger picture in order to build out the requirements and the specifications that you're looking for. And then from there, it looks different depending on who's actually driving this, right? Do you have a business analyst that's driving it or somebody that's supporting you? Or is it truly the HR folks that are working directly with the vendor to get it set up? And you'll find it kind of varies across the board on what that looks like. But I don't know of any vendor or service provider that isn't diving deep in the technology of it all, right? Not everybody at the service provider is aware of the capabilities or the options, but that synergy needs to happen where who you're talking to at least has an idea of what they're talking about. And if they don't, then they can pull that right person in the room. So it takes time because it's a full project and you have to tackle it as a project and say, we have to look at this part first and then this part and then this part and really isolate all of those to get to that final piece of getting it implemented.
Thanks, Cassie. That's very well said. I recognize the importance of having a project sponsor in supporting this implementation. That's very good. Thanks for your answer.
I like the fact that how you're looking at things, because it's a very technical way of sort of observing this process. Obviously, I think it's very familiar to us because we are all sort of working in tech. But I think from someone that doesn't have such a strong relationship with technology, it can be even more challenging, because even defining the specs, or at the minimum, mapping the processes you're already doing through whatever means you're doing them right now, whether you're keeping track of things in a spreadsheet or sending emails or making calls, and going from that to using software to manage all that information. Just that alone can be very challenging, because it's you have to know how to translate those to whatever solution you're implementing. I also find that being able to communicate within your organization and your team and the people that are going to end up using the technology is very important, right? Because they have to understand what were the benefits, how it's going to make their lives easier, right? Because they're not going to use it just because, they might use it just because someone tells them to, but in the end, if you want to have faster adoption, you want them to see the benefits of it, and then they need to understand what those are. So communication as well, it can be very tricky and very important, and you absolutely need to have a driver behind it, because if there isn't someone within your organization that's convinced that that's a good way forward and that's going to improve the process and make things more efficient, it's everyone's pickings. So that's going to go very, very slow. We're trying to help our customers with implementation as much as we can, in terms of both mapping the workflows that they're doing right now to our system. Like I said, that we did find that sometimes that can be challenging, especially when it's a smaller team that's used to doing things in one way. It's a big change, so we're trying to help with that. We're trying to help with the communication as well, just giving pointers of how to approach things with the expatriates, perhaps, or how to present certain features to them. So we're there with the customers and seeing the struggles.
Thanks, Laura. I can also add here that from the experience that I had and the feedback that I received from customers as well, they do recognize the ease of implementation, and that makes them more accepting towards the solution and embrace the change, basically. So also I want to point out that for the platform, the xpath Global platform, that currently no implementation costs for a limited period of time, have a special offer. So we can understand some technologies can also put people off through high implementation costs, which is why we've determined to address this and put an offer where we encourage and support a smooth and quick implementation with no cost associated. Now, sorry, Karen, do you want to add something? No, I had the feeling that you were going to say something. Sorry. But I do want to come to you to ask you if you think of any potential drawbacks or risks that are associated with relying heavily on technology for global mobility, and how can these risks be mitigated?
Yeah, of course. I think we've talked about a number of them through this. I mean, the change management can be hard sometimes, both from a technical standpoint as well as the human component. Certainly data privacy is a huge issue in the work that we do. Most tasks involved in global mobility involve a large amount of PII. So it is very hard to be able to even do daily tasks without being conscious of the risk of data breaches. And certainly when we're sharing, if you're in a position where you're sharing that data across multiple platforms, multiple suppliers, within the company, things of that sort, we have to always be mindful of protecting the privacy of our employees and abiding by all regulations in those areas. And then certainly just things that can catch us off guard, some kind of natural disaster, if technology goes down, power is not available, how do we reach our people? Where are they? Things of the sort. So crisis management plans are incredibly important for all of us to have. There are even some industries, including one where I worked previously, that has some employees in, say, a manufacturing plant capacity where they're not going to be in front of their computer or their phone at all times during the day. So we need to be thinking broadly about how do we use technology for all of our audiences, but also what do we do when something happens and that technology is not available, and how do we manage that and still support our employees. So it's an interesting dilemma, especially as we get more and more tech-based in the work that we do. And global really, our reach is global, but certainly something that we should all think about and have in our planning.
Thanks, Karen. I think this year and the last 2 years actually have showed us that we do have to have these plans in place for crisis management. And you're right, we have to have backup plans. What do you do in case you cannot use the technology as you were used to? That's great. Thanks for pointing that out.
Yeah, I would like to add one point to that, and this is a risk to heavily outrun the authorities with what we are doing. I mean, I experienced it a couple of times in my career that my team and also our service providers, they prepared the immigration process perfectly. There were no glitches, everything was smooth and fast and user-friendly. And then these people or employees, they go to an appointment at an official authority, at the embassy, for example. And then they have to wait 1 year for the embassy appointment. And then they come there and the welcoming culture is not there. Then they are requested to send in an additional documents via fax machine. And they run around trying to find the next fax machine in their surroundings. So my point is that we are trying to win this race for talents on our daily basis. The countries do, the companies do, but we can't do it alone. So if there's anyone today listening from the authorities side who is in charge of improving the processes or of harnessing the innovation from the authorities side, I would be very happy to discuss it, to just to make sure that it is on the agenda of different authorities of different countries all over Europe, but also all over other Western countries.
Thanks, Elena. So I know from your experience, you worked a lot with these national institutions, and did you observe any trends or initiatives at integrating technology in their interactions with mobility professionals, and what impact did these have on your processes?
Yes and no. I haven't experienced any initiatives that were aimed to work closer with providers or with immigration providers, basically. But I have seen initiatives that, as a side effect, had impact on the daily work that we are doing. Maybe to bring an example here, for those who are familiar with German immigration processes, there are usually 2 steps. First, you get the approval from the employment agency, and the second one, you visit the embassy and get the visa. So after you visit, you have the approval from the employment agency. You get a big gray letter via regular post into your mailbox. You have to take this letter, put it in another envelope, send to your team member over continents. Maybe it arrives, maybe it doesn't. And then they have to take it and go with it to the embassy. And the reason the authorities are bringing up for that, only this way we can make sure that it's original. Well, it's kind of outdated. It's kind of, I don't know, 20 to 30 years outdated. And there is a new project where this paper is actually uploaded to a certain central register and then downloaded from another embassy, or from another authority, which is the embassy. Like, maybe it's too much effort to just transfer a document, but okay, this is what the authorities do. But it makes our life much easier, because this whole process of like receiving this document, sending it, making sure it arrives at the right place, and reminding the employee to really take this original with them, and maybe like postpone the appointment because it's not there on time. So this whole process is simplified. It's not there anymore. So this process was not created for us. It was not created to make our lives easier, but still it does. And I think it's our task to look out for those possibilities to simplify processes as soon as there are new initiatives brought up by the authorities.
I would
Just okay. Go ahead, Karen.
So I think we're all anxious to talk. I was just going to add that, I didn't mention this in one of the risks. Certainly, I think all of us, especially those in the details of immigration and tax, would love to see more automated processes, streamlined processes. There are, still too many locations, in my opinion, that require you to print out documents, wet sign them, mail them, or upload them, things of that sort. But at the same time, all this integration with technology also brings some risk to us. We had a case where an employee, his work permit was pending in a country. We had told him to wait to travel until the work permit was approved, but unbeknownst to us, went ahead and scheduled his flight. And I won't mention too many details, but this particular country, they're integrated somehow with the airline travel system, and got a flag that this person was going to be entering the country, and actually called us, called a member of my team and said, we see so-and-so is on the plane about to arrive in the country. What are they going to be doing when they get here? Because their work permit's not approved yet. So this is the future. And I think we all need to understand that with technology comes benefits, but it also comes risk.
Yeah.
So we were able to resolve that one, thankfully, and say, oh, no, he's just going to look for a place to live. He's not going to be doing any work. So on and so forth. They did let him in the country, but that is the future of the authorities integrating along with their tax counterparts, between tax and immigration, with border control, with airlines maybe in this example. So we all need to be thinking of that and planning for that as well.
Two things that I hear from that. One is always tell your folks where you're going. I cannot tell you how many times I've said to people, the two people you need to be honest with are your lawyers and your doctor. Like, if you are not honest, and specifically your immigration lawyer, right? Don't hide things. Don't try to do things your own way, because there's a reason why that role exists. So that's number one, is tell people where you're going. And I always remind folks about that. But number two is the privacy piece. And that's what I was going to say earlier was I think that the governments are trying to balance in all these institutions. And we've talked about PII. We're trying to balance the privacy of it all with the ease and the technology of it. Most of the time it works out, and we do our best to make sure that it does. But there are times when you do have to balance, like, which one matters more. And so I get where the government's coming from for the most part, where they are very, very conservative when it comes to privacy, and saying, well, we think it's more secure to have somebody print things out, or we think this two-step process is more secure to make sure that folks are not bifurcating or bypassing. That's what I meant to say. Bypassing, right, one step or another. But I think there's a way to do that and to be more secure. And I think that the most recent example is the U.S. government, right, with the right to work verification, where they've said, we're going to allow it virtually, they realize, listen, if somebody's going to provide false information, they're going to do it either way, right? Whether you're there or not, whether you're doing it in person or on camera, it doesn't really matter. And so that's been a huge relief and a huge change for folks in the immigration space, for sure, who are managing the right to work program. But there is, right, you still have to protect yourself, and you still have to make sure that folks are doing it the right way. And that's what kind of the crux of technology comes to, right? As great a lever and a driver as it is, it still comes down to the people who are actually doing it.
Thank you. I love the piece about the honesty to the lawyer and the doctor, and you've all said it rightly. Things are moving. The governments are adopting technology. We talked about the challenges of implementing technology and timeframes from a large company point of view. But it'd be interesting to also find out from inside a national institution, what are the challenges? What are the timeframes? And how do they prioritize things over the others? And yeah, getting a view of their timelines. I guess we won't have the answer in this session, but it's definitely on people's minds. And it's very interesting to hear that, well, some countries, and we know some institutions are more advanced than others. Karen pointed out, it's the future, it's coming. People and institutions and governments will get there. We don't have a clear timeline as to when for each one, but it's important to watch out because it is affecting our work and the expat experience and the whole process. So it's important we stay up to date with it. We stay up to date, we follow and provide suggestions. I'm sure some of these institutions also take feedback into account. So why not? Let's keep providing that.
I actually like Cassie's point about the fact that, in the end, it's people working with these tools. So, it's easy to think of the government as this abstract or institution or a body, but in the end, it's the people that work with it. And if they have the training, the knowledge, the capacity to understand where maybe something is reasonable, maybe something is not, I think, using technology in a government would probably go smoother with balancing both privacy and the need for security and ensuring that processes and regulations are followed. So basically what I'm trying to say is that you still need to rely on people to make the decision of, okay, yeah, this makes sense. I don't need to have it in print form, but at the same time, not overstepping the access they have to private data and looking too much into it.
That's right. Well, all of this chat around the institutions and the technology really also makes me look forward to even more to the event that we're hosting on the 27th of October in Bucharest, where we'll have representatives from the OECD and the European Labour Authority. So I look forward to taking away all of the discussions and the feedback that you guys have shared with me and take it to those discussions there. This will be mostly around compliance and tax, but of course, even in that space, we know technology plays an important part. So I look forward to taking the learning from that and sharing it with you all here. But thank you. You've really managed to spike my interest even more into this. It feels like there's perhaps a known topic in its own right, and we should dedicate a whole session to this. But thank you. Conscious of the time, I do want to thank you all for joining us today in this insightful LinkedIn Live event on Tech Talks and Global Mobility, harnessing innovation for success. So I want to extend my gratitude to our esteemed panelists for sharing their expertise and valuable insights. I also want to express my gratitude to each of you in the audience for your active participation and engagement. Thanks, Beth, who's also complementing the session, and she passes a special thanks to the speakers. Also, remember, if you want to stay updated with the latest news on HR tech and learn more about xpath Global, please follow our page. Also, if you're interested in attending any of the upcoming summits or conferences that we mentioned, so the Talent Mobility Summit in Bucharest or Unleash World in Paris, please get in touch with us for a chance to obtain guest passes to these events. To those that missed the first part of the session, the Talent Mobility Summit is the event brought to you by xpath Global in Bucharest in collaboration with our partners from Austria, Belgium, Spain, Germany, France, and Romania. And it's going to take place on October 27th, and we'll delve into topics like tax and compliance. And we're honored to have speakers from OECD and European Labour Authority. Unleash World is another great event that we'll be attending. It's a leading HR technology conference taking place on 16th and 17th of October in Paris. So again, for information, follow us on LinkedIn and reach out to us if you're interested in joining us as a guest for any of these events. And remember, innovation knows no boundaries. So let us continue collaborating, learning, and driving innovation forward to shape a brighter and more globally connected future. So thanks again to my panelists and to xpath Global for sponsoring this event. And I hope you've gained valuable insights, and I look forward to continuing this discussion in the future. So thank you all.